Okay, let's dive right into this explainer. If you've been learning Scottish Gaelic for a bit, you've probably hit a very specific, kind of frustrating wall, trying to translate the English word have. In English, have does a whole lot of heavy lifting, but in Gaelic, trying to translate it directly can lead you straight into a pretty massive grammatical trap. So today, we are going to completely demystify this. We're going to break down the Gaelic perfect tenses. We'll look at exactly how to build these sentences correctly, how to place your objects, and, crucially, how to know when an action is just broadly completed versus when it literally just happened.
So here is our roadmap for today. We'll start with the air anchor, move right into adding objects, cover the recent perfect, touch on dialects and vowels, and then finish up with what we call the 3 useful doors.
Section 1, the air anchor, present and past perfect.
Right, let's start with our foundational concept, the Gaelic perfect. Using the word air indicates that an action is fully complete before a specific reference time. But I want you to really notice that second half, regardless of how recently it happened. So, the absolute key takeaway here is that the air perfect is all about completion before a reference point. It is not about recency. It honestly doesn't tell us if the event happened 5 minutes ago or 50 years ago.
To really visualize the present perfect, imagine a timeline. You've got your event, which is the completed action, and you have now, which is your present reference time. Think of now as your anchor. Because we're using the present tense verb the action is complete before right now. For example, na police are nisidwin. The police have told us. The telling happens, it's totally complete, and we know it right now. The sentence doesn't say if they told us yesterday or 10 years ago. It just says the telling is already a done deal right now.
Now, what if we shift our anchor into the past? Our reference point is now then, a very specific moment in the past, meaning now is completely outside of the story frame. For the past perfect, we just use ba. Ba a shomerle ar gelting. The council had promised. The earlier event, the promise, is fully complete before that specific past moment in our story. And again, recency just isn't part of the grammar here. The promise might have been made immediately before that past moment or decades prior.
To really prove this isn't about recency, let's look at a not necessarily recent test sentence. Chani ar firech in Glasgow san wina mór. I have lived in Glasgow for a long time. Adding time-distance words like for a long time works perfectly with the air construction. Living in Glasgow for a long time is perfect here because the experience is completed before the reference point, absolutely not because it's fresh from the oven.
Section 2. Adding objects. Object fronting. Okay, now that we have the anchor secured, let's see what happens to our sentence structure when we introduce a direct object. When there's no object, the verbal noun sits right after air. So, Tommy air falv, I have gone, or Tommy air ita, I have eaten. Super simple, right? But when we add an object, like the book and leabhar, the whole structure shifts. Tommy air and leabhar a leabhah, I have read the book. The object actually jumps before the verbal noun. This is a fantastic step-by-step formula for object fronting. So say you want to translate I have read the book. Well, actually, scratch the English word order. Step 1 in Gaelic. The object always comes first right after air, so we place an leughadh. Step 2, we add our linker, that little word which causes lenition, meaning it softens the sound of the following consonant. And finally, step 3, place the verbal noun, leughadh, so we get an leughadh a leughadh. Object, linker, verbal noun. Definitely keep this formula in your back pocket because you are going to use it all the time. Section 3, the recent perfect, and they and us stay.
So how do we handle actions that did literally just happen? Remember how the air perfect completely ignored recency? Enter the recent perfect. Structurally, it does the exact same job of setting a reference time, but it specifically marks that a short gap exists between the event and our reference point. This is exactly where we capture the idea of something having just happened.
Comparing these sentences side by side really highlights the difference between a broadly completed action and a recently completed one. We can say Thami ir falb, I have gone, but if we swap air for on dèidh, we get Thami on dèidh falv, I have just left. It's the same family of meanings, but a distinctly different job. Similarly, Thami ir ete becomes Thami on dèidh ete, to mean I have just eaten. The on dèidh structure inherently points toward immediate recent completion.
And the exact same logic applies to the past perfect. Let's bring back our council example. Ba a cohoel er Gaelton, the council had promised. Now let's swap air for an dèidh. Ba a cóhal an dèidh galtan. The council had just promised. Just like ba mi ar ihe, I had eaten, versus ba mi an dèidh ihe, I had just eaten. It implies the action happened very recently relative to that past point in our story. It's a subtle shift in vocabulary, sure, but it gives you a massive amount of precision in your storytelling.
Section 4. Dialects and Vowels. Pronunciation Rules. Before we wrap everything up, we need to quickly tidy up a couple of nuances around dialects and pronunciation. Getting this right will make your Gaelic sound so much more natural. You might be watching this and thinking, wait a second, I've heard people say as dèidh instead of in dèidh, and you'd be entirely right. Depending on the speaker's region, you're going to hear both. But rest assured, an dèidh and as dèidh are just dialectal variants. They share the exact same grammar rules and the exact same meaning, just or recently completed. Speakers might prefer one over the other, though an dèidh is usually the safest general choice if you're learning.
And here is a really neat little rule for your pronunciation. Remember our object fronting formula? Object, linker a, verbal noun. Well, when closing a door, we say, and Doris a dúnad. The is right in there. But when the verbal noun starts with a vowel, like ithe for eating, as in biad ithe, eating the food, the linker acts like a sound-shy particle and just slips behind the curtain. It completely disappears. It's not a new tense at all. The grammar just keeps going anyway without you actually making the sound.
Section 5. 3 useful doors choosing your tense.
All right, let's pull all of this together. Think of these as your 3 useful doors. When you're speaking Gaelic, you simply choose the door based on exactly what you want your listener to focus on. Door number 1. If you want to focus purely on a finished past event, you use the simple past. Cúla mi an dèidh, I heard the news. Door number 2. If you want to focus on the state of completion before now, use the air perfect. Thami air an dèidh a Clinton, I have heard the news. And door number 3. If you want to focus on immediate recency, you go with the recent perfect. Thami endeth an dèidh a Clinton, I have just heard the news. 3 different intentions, 3 totally different Gaelic structures.
So, as a quick summary, here is your ultimate cheat sheet for escaping that translation trap. The simple past pinpoints a finished moment. The air perfect means an action was completed before your reference point. The indeed perfect means it was just completed before your reference point. And the absolute biggest takeaway of all, not every English have wants the same Gaelic door. You really have to stop and think about the meaning behind the action rather than just blindly swapping words one for one.
I really hope this explainer has empowered you to make the right grammatical choices moving forward. By understanding the timeline and using your anchor, you've essentially unlocked a whole new level of precision in how you describe past and recent actions. So keep practicing, review your 3 choices, and ask yourself every single time you go to speak, which door will you confidently choose for your next sentence? Thanks so much for joining me on this deep dive.